I'm joined now by USAID Chief Nutritionist Shawn Baker, who is here to chat with us a little bit about the US's role in the summit process, as well as how he wants to see this connect to the wider food systems and nutrition agenda. Welcome, Shawn.
Thank you so much, Teresa, for inviting me. Thanks to you and thanks to Devex for everything you're doing to elevate nutrition issues this year because it's such a critical time.
It is a critical time, and I'm so pleased that you could be here to chat with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about how USAID is thinking about this summit process and what you want to see come out of it?
Yeah, I'd be quite happy to. And maybe I'll start with just what is the baseline of where we are. As you know, in global nutrition, we have made progress. And that's one of the things that comes out of the Lancet series, which we'll launch earlier this year. I think it's a two-part message, is that it's a big, or three-part. It's a big problem under nutrition. We've got a lot of evidence-based solutions. And there has been progress, enough progress to demonstrate that if we're serious about delivering nutrition, we actually can see it happen. But that progress is not enough to meet the very ambitious targets of the World Health Assembly and the SDG targets by 2030. And to me, this food systems summit is an incredible opportunity to reset the expectations about what has to happen from the food and agricultural sector to meet those targets. I often say that so much of what we do in public health nutrition is digging ourselves out of a hole created by a food system that does not deliver safe, affordable, nutritious food. So a case in point, we can do a lot on behavior change communications with moms, but if you're sitting in a country like Niger and you're trying to feed your child a nutritious diet, you have a situation where a cost of an egg, for example, in terms of the calorie equivalent is 23.3 times higher than the cost of staples. So it clearly, these nutritious foods in many settings are just out of reach for households to make sure we're meeting the nutrient requirements of mothers and children. Before the pandemic, we still had about 149 million children stunted, about 49 and a half children suffering from wasting. And we'd made extremely little progress on low birth weight, with about 20.5 million live births suffering from low birth weight, indicating just how much damage is being done during pregnancy. And we've seen with this pandemic, as you probably heard some of the numbers, the consortium that came together to try to get a handle on what's going to happen as this pandemic hits every system that households rely on to deliver good nutrition for mothers and children are really pretty grim. The projections of increases in wasting above those 2020 baselines, between 9.3 to 13.6 million additional children suffering from wasting. When you combine those increases in wasting with the decreases in coverage of nutrition services, that can result in major increases in undernutritional attributable deaths, between 168,000 to 283,000. It's similarly grim when you look at longer term and increases of children who will suffer from stunting, mothers who will suffer from anemia or low body mass index. So in a way, the fact that we have this food system summit and then later in the year, the Nutrition for Growth Summit is incredibly opportune of how do we learn from our progress to date, learn from what's happened during the pandemic to really strengthen our food systems, our health systems, and our social protection systems, and our humanitarian response to re-energize the nutrition agenda and reach those bold targets. So specifically the Food Systems Summit, and I'll dig into that more, a big focus on the diets of kids, where we've globally, I would say, failed abysmally. I reflected on the cost of an egg in Niger as an example. If you look across low and middle income countries, less than 18% of infants and young kids in that critical window between 6 and 23 months when we need to make sure that you have high nutrient foods in addition to breast milk, only 18% are getting a minimal acceptable diet. That's just a gross failing of food systems. We also continue to have a huge burden of deficiencies in vitamins and minerals, despite proven solutions that have been working for a century through large-scale food fortification to deliver essential nutrients through the food system. So this is an opportunity to reposition large-scale food fortification. And then we're also looking at other priorities of, for example, working with small and medium enterprises across particularly Africa, which are hugely responsible for producing food for populations. How do we work with them so they actually have not just the technical means of how to produce nutritious foods, but also have the financial means? Because these are the enterprises that just nobody's really looking out after them for the very sorts of financings that they can take the risk to actually produce nutritious foods.
And so how is USAID working with all of your partners around the world, whether it is country governments or the multitude of organizations that you partner with, to push these goals forward? The summit process, is collating, these solutions and all these new suggestions for how we can reform food systems. What role does USAID see for itself in that reform agenda and actually carrying these things forward?
Well, I think, to me, you really speak to what I see as the strength of USAID. It also can be, of course, one of the challenges is that we are a very large, sprawling organization. We cover many different technical areas across critical sectors, including the health system, the food system, humanitarian assistance, and then I think our biggest strength is our great field presence and with our missions across the globe. And so we're really, and then of course, within the broader U.S. government context, we work very closely with other parts of the U.S. government, particularly through both the Feed the Future Global Food Security Strategy and through the Global Nutrition Coordination Plan, both which bring together a multitude of U.S. government departments and agencies. So I would say we work at multiple levels, U.S. government-wide, both through the Global Food Security Strategy, Feed the Future, and through the Global Nutrition Coordination Plan to help set all of U.S. government priorities. We work hand in hand with multiple global partners, other donors, other international organizations, to how can we see areas of common interest and how we can align. And I think that's going to be a hallmark of this summit, of these solution clusters are going to be coming to the table as consortiums of actors coming together to really try to make a change. And then very much engaged in almost any country we work, in agriculture, food security, economic growth. We are one of the major donor organizations in that sector and a highly respected partner with our government and other stakeholders on the ground. And so as there have been these food systems consultations across the globe, our missions and our implementing partners have been very deeply engaged of how do we work hand in hand with our partner governments. And I'll take advantage of that question to say, I think that is going to be a real strength that we hope to bring to the table, that food systems have to be responding to the specific needs of the specific countries that we work with, to really use the evidence base from those settings to define what are the priorities, what are the solution sets, and then really accompany our partner governments in delivering that solution set.
And I think that's the key part, right? Is how do we all deliver? Really ambitious agenda here. The summit has lofty goals, but how do we actually make all of this happen once all of the meetings are done and we're done convening and all of that? So we've got just about a minute left. One final question for you: what does success look like for you? How do we measure, if we've really delivered on this agenda, with all the promises of the summit?
You put your finger on it. That, I love lofty ambitions. I love more concrete deliverables that are relevant to the governments of the countries where we're working and our stakeholders in those countries. How do we get these lofty ambitions translated into very specific, actionable priorities that will be embraced by our partner governments and our stakeholders, and then get those commitments on the table? And we're working through our national counterparts and the global counterparts to hold all of us accountable. So moving from the lofty discourse to evidence-based action that we're going to be held accountable for and we'll have the resources to deliver on. To me, that's what success is going to be. I think it's exciting to have both the Food System Summit followed by Nutrition for Growth in early December, because we can take some of those lofty aspirations from the summit, the Food System Summit, I think, and build them out into more concrete deliverables in early December.
Well, unfortunately, we are out of time today, but Shawn, thank you so much for being with us. And I really look forward to continuing this conversation with you and, continuing to track what this accountability really looks like as we do go ahead into the summit itself and Nutrition for Growth in December. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Teresa.